Well, let's talk about that issue and others with the government representative this morning. As you can see, I'm joined now by Minister for Industry, Sarah Jones. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for coming in. I'm going to come on to Scunthorpe in just a moment. Lots to ask you about that. But just to say, just in the last few minutes, we gathered that the US Vice President, J.D. Vance, has been talking about the prospect of a trade deal with the UK. He said the US is working very hard with the UK in negotiating a great trade deal. What can you tell us about that? How close is it?
So the negotiations are ongoing. I don't have anything beyond that to add. Of course, we know that officials and the Secretary of State and others have been working, really hard on our relationships with the US, on our trading relationship and on that negotiation. And I don't have anything more to add today. We obviously were in a good position to be able to have these conversations. We've built up good relationships. So I'm positive about the future. But of course, I don't have anything further to say other than that the conversations are ongoing and we're hopeful to have an outcome.
OK, well, I'll ask you about a subject that I know that you will have details on, and that is the Scunthorpe plant. Get us up to date with the latest on the raw materials needed for keeping the furnaces there burning. When are they expected to arrive at the Scunthorpe plant?
So there is a shipment already at Immingham Port, which will be unloading today, and the Secretary of State, Jonathan Reynolds, is up there to oversee that shipment coming in. So there should be a delivery of the iron pellets to Scunthorpe later today. There are other shipments already on their way as well and ordered, including coming from Australia, coming from the US, coming from Sweden. And what we're being told by the people who are on the ground there in Scunthorpe say that they are reassured that we have the materials that we need. We have got those supplies coming in. We've got orders on the books. Lots of people have stepped forward as well and offered to help us in this endeavour, and we are confident that we can keep both of those blast furnaces operating.
So the immediate crisis averted, you're saying. What about the plan after that? The government has said that it would like to see private investment in the future, but realistically, how likely is that? Is it the case that nationalisation is going to be the next step?
Well, it may be. We had negotiated what we thought was a really good deal with Jingye. We'd offered some funding from government in return for investment from them, and we think that there is a model there that we could replicate with another private sector company. At the moment, there isn't another private sector company there waiting in the wings. We'd have to have the conversation. So what we've done with the emergency intervention now to secure those raw materials is to make sure we have the time now to have those conversations with the private sector to work up what potential solutions there could be into the future. But for the time being, we know that the raw materials are there. So we've got the continuation. We've got new leadership there in British Steel. We've paid the costs of the raw materials, so we're in a steady state now. We're much more secure, but of course we do have to look to the future and look at what possibilities there may be, and it might be that it's a national solution. It might be that it's a private solution.
How much would nationalisation cost?
So all of these options are of course expensive. As we know, if we'd have allowed the site to close, if we'd have allowed those people to lose their jobs, the cost of remediating the site, the cost of closing it, the cost would have been over £1 billion. So what we set out in the manifesto, because we knew that we wanted to make sure steel in this country had a future, what we set out in the manifesto is a £2.5 billion fund for steel, which is what we will be using for our steel plan, and that's what we would use to invest. So in Port Talbot, there was an investment of £500 million that will go to Tata when they build the electric arc furnace, and we'd be looking to do similar things. But we are also looking at what's the future of primary steel making, what's the future of virgin steel making, and what do we need to do.
That may get you out of the crisis at the moment, but it wouldn't be enough to update the blast furnaces when they're due to be updated. And nationalisation, the estimates are £4 to £5 billion.
Yes, we're talking lots of funding, absolutely, and that's why we're being really careful to do this correctly, because we don't want to be spending taxpayers' money in a way that would be in any way wasteful, and that's why our preference is for a private sector partner to come in. We've been looking at various options of new technology that uses hydrogen to produce primary steel. We're also looking at all kinds of issues around what the trade barriers might be, what the scrap situation is. We're looking at the whole picture so that we can make sure we think there should be a really strong future for steel in the UK, because the demand for steel is going up. There's no reason why we shouldn't be producing it here in our country.
Will you rule out another Chinese partner for this plant?
Well, we've had conversations that have been in good faith with Jingye up till recent times, and recently, obviously, we know that that has broken down. The relationship with China is a really important one, and it's really key that I say that. The second largest economy in the world, our fourth largest trading partner, hundreds of thousands of jobs in the UK.
So you are
rely
comfortable
on that
with
relationship.
another Chinese partner for this plant?
Whenever we look at any investment, there are stringent tests that have to be met, and they would apply to a Chinese company as they would to any other company. So, of course, we will be careful. We will make sure we do the right thing. Security is the number one issue, and when we're looking at critical infrastructure, it's very important. But we have a trading relationship with China, and that will continue to be the case. It's why the Chancellor was there, and it's why my colleague Douglas Alexander has been there last week.
So you're not ruling out the possibility of another Chinese partner for this plant?
Well, we're not at the moment. I'm not going to say yes or no to anything that isn't at the moment on the table or being looked at. Whatever the future for Scunthorpe, we want to make sure we can keep primary steel making, we can keep steel making in our country, and we can grow that industry, not see the continued decline that we've had over recent years.
There are some within your party who are really concerned about the closeness of relations with China and the idea of China continuing to invest in this country. Senior Labour figures are telling the government that they should look at this. They should think about some kind of rapprochement. They feel that a rapprochement could risk national security. Do you share those concerns at all?
Well, of course, we know we're in a more dangerous world. We know that security is more important. It's why the Prime Minister has put extra billions into our defence industry. We know that we're looking at things in a slightly different way than perhaps we have over recent years. But any deal with any country, any company, will always involve establishing whether there's a security risk or not. And as I said, the relationship with China is an important one. They're a big trading partner, but we will look at every case as it comes to make sure we're doing the right thing for this country and to make sure we're secure as a country.
You mentioned Douglas Alexander has been in China. Also, Rachel Reeves visited earlier in the year. We understand that Ed Miliband signed an agreement promising close cooperation with Beijing during a visit to China last month. Do you expect further visits by senior ministers to China in the coming weeks and months?
I expect there will be other ministers going to China in the future, of course, as they do go to countries around the world, particularly those that are very important for us in terms of our trading partnerships. As I said, hundreds of thousands of jobs rely on that trade here in the UK at the moment, and we will make sure we've got a pragmatic approach where we compete, we trade, and of course we challenge where we need to as well.
Are you comfortable then with Chinese companies investing in critical infrastructure in the UK?
I'm comfortable with our trading relationship with China, yes.
Because they are currently involved in a number of different industries, including utilities, and you're comfortable with that and happy for them to invest in them in the future?
I think all of the stringent tests that we undergo, that we make sure are done and will continue to be into the future.
The Liberal Democrat MP, Wira Hobhouse, spoke to this programme yesterday about her trip to see her grandson in Hong Kong, and she was refused entry and was sent back by the Chinese government. Have you had an explanation yet about why that happened?
Well, I know my colleague Douglas Alexander was there and talked to officials about it. And of course, we all heard the interviews with her, and it was very distressing. And of course, we want to make sure that, our members of Parliament are able to, well, everybody is able to travel around the world in the way that they want to. So, of course, there will be conversations with those counterparts, as I know Douglas has been really clear about when he was there himself.
So have you had an explanation, though? Have you had an account of why that happened?
I haven't had an account, no, but my focus, I'm afraid, for the last couple of days has been very much on what's happening in Scunthorpe, so it hasn't been something that I've been party to, no.
I ask because it's related and
yeah,
to do with China, of course. But Sarah Jones, thank you so much for
you.
coming in this morning. We appreciate it. Thank you.